Hey everybody, in today's video I'm going to show you how you can create a chart like this in Google Sheets to show you a range of possible values. So in this example I'm using analyst price targets where they have a low, a medium, and a high amount, or an average amount I should say, and to show you where a stock price could potentially go based on all these different estimates. So I'm going to start from scratch to show you how I'm going to do this. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use Apple as an example. So if I go to marketbeat.com, it's got a list of a high prediction, an average prediction, and a low prediction. And I'm going to use these prices as the basis for my chart. The stock's around $136 right now. So that's going to be the current price that I'm going to use. So for starters, I'm going to set an area to set the current price, the high, the average, and the low. And these are based on the analyst expectations. So right now, the stock's about $136. The high is $210 based on the expectations, $171.11 for the average, and $125 for the low. Next, what I'm going to do is start to set up my table. So I'm going to have two columns, one for today's value, one for tomorrow. So I'm going to have my highest point, which today it's just going to be the current price, equal to the current price. But tomorrow, in the future, it's going to be $210 potentially. And then I'm going to have a profitable area to show where the stock will return a profit if I buy it today and it reaches that future point. And again, this is going to still be today, so everything is going to start at today. And so we want to capture that gap. So the reason why I'm separating this out is because I want two separate charts in here, one that shows an area and one that actually shows that dotted line. So to accomplish that, that's why I've got these multiple series in here. Same with the consensus estimate. So I got consensus line, and then below that I'm going to have a loss area, a break-even line, my lowest point, and a blank range. So for everything, it's all starting from 130, 136. That's my starting point. For the consensus line, this is that average of 171.11. So I just need that for that line. My loss area, this is going to be basically anything equal to the current price, because anything below the current price is going to be a loss. My break even is also going to be equal to the current value. My lowest point, that's based on this low value of 125, and same with the blank area. So that's how I've got it set up. So I've got the high values here. I've got the average being my consensus, the loss area being up to 136, because anything below this will be a loss, and that's also my break-even line. And so this will all make sense once I start to chart out. I just wanted to show you how I'm setting it up at this stage. So what I'm going to do now is go to Insert, select Chart, and I'm going to use a combination chart here, a combo chart, because I want to have a mix of all these different fields. Now, the one thing I'm going to need to do right now is switch the rows and columns around, because I actually want all these series broken out by these different areas. What I'm going to need to do next is go into the Customize section and go under Series and now customize each one of these series, because I've got a combination chart. So I'm going to start at the highest point, and for this one, let's say I want to use a green line color, but the type that I want to use or chart is a line. I don't want it to be a column. So you can see that changes now the look of my chart, and actually defaulted my color back to blue. So let me change that back to green. And I'll use a dashed line to indicate that that's my highest point is is a dash. So it's not visible right now, but it will be in a little bit. And I'll switch this over to the right axis as well while I'm at it. And actually I can apply this to all the series right off the bat. Some axis on the right. So my highest profitable area, my highest point, it's going to be green, a dashed line. And then I'll move on to my profitable area. And this is going to be an area chart. And what I'm going to do is change this one to a lighter shade of green, just so we can see that profit in there. The line opacity, I'm going to set this to 0 because I want to see my dotted line, my highest point. Otherwise, it's going to overshadow that. And so by setting it to opacity of 0, I don't have to worry about that. The area opacity, I can set to be 100%, but obviously you can change this for different layers of transparency. Next, I'm going to go to the consensus line. This one I'll use a solid black color, and again another dash. So we're going to use a line here, and for the line thickness, you can make this a bit bigger potentially to help it stand out. But this is just going to be a simple line for this one. Next, I'm going to go to the loss area. And here I'm going to use a light shade of red. Again, a line opacity of 0, just because I need this to be an area chart. And so I don't need to worry about the dash. Opacity is going to need to be 100%. Otherwise, it's going to get overshadowed by the green. So I just need to make sure I adjust that so it shows up. Next up is the break-even line. And this one is going to be a line, and I'm going to use black as well. This one I'm going to keep a solid black, just to indicate that that's the break even. Anything below that is a loss. You can see it right there, so it stands out well. And you'll notice now you're starting to see this chart sort of come along, because now we can see that the green areas are the profitable areas. So basically we're saying if the stock is $136 today, and it stays above that level, basically stays green, then that means we'll be profitable if we buy the stock today and those analyst forecasts are true, whether it's the high or the consensus, the average. So now the key thing left is really just that last line and eliminating all this red fill color, because obviously we don't want that to show up. So next up, I'm going to go to the lowest point, and for this example, I'm going to use a solid red color, and again it's going to be another line, so dashed, and right now it doesn't show up, but it will once I fix the next point, which is the blank area. And this is going to be another area chart, and the color is going to be white. Don't need the line to show up, but I do want the opacity set to 100%. Otherwise, it's going to get overshadowed again by the light red there. So once I change it to 100%, now it takes over, and now we can see that show up. So now we've got something that looks like what I'd shown you at the beginning. Key part now is to clean up this a little bit more. And so one thing that I'll want to do is adjust this axis, because right now it's a bit broad. We don't need it going to 0 because the stock's not going to 0. The lowest we're expecting it goes is 125. So for the minimum value, I might set it at 120. We adjust that range, and then for the max value, let's say, actually we've already got it at 220, so that already looks pretty good. Now we don't want this legend here, because that's just going to make it look a lot more confusing. And I'm also going to add some data labels onto here. So when I click on this, I may not necessarily get the series I want. So to be safe, you want to always want to be careful in this case to select the right series. In this case, I want the highest point, so I want that data label on there, that 210. I'll do the same thing for the consensus line. In this case, I picked the right one, so it's fine. Got my data label. My lowest point, 125. And this is where labeling these series at the beginning is helpful, because you know whether they refer to a point or an area on your chart. And now that I've got that, I can sort of hide my axis. Now I can't delete it. It's not going to let me delete it. So the next best thing I can do is change the text color to white to make it disappear. Right? So now we do not see those line items on there. And I can do the same thing for the horizontal axis. Change the font color to white. And so now I've got a cleaner looking chart. The one thing I do want to change is my starting point is showing up as red, because that was the last data label I added. If I click on it enough times, I'll get into this specific, editing this specific number, and I can change this just to a solid black, just so it's a bit easier. And if you wanted to stand out a little bit more, perhaps add some bolding just to show that that's your starting point. The last thing I might want to do is just change the title. Call it Analyst Price Target. Bold it, center it, apply black fill. But other than that, that's how you can set up this chart, and make it a bit more dynamic. So if you've got updated price targets, if the stock, let's say, falls to or jumps to, let's say, 150, automatically update for you and make for a easy to use template. And so circling back to these series that I set up initially. So the reason why there's multiple areas is just because we need to show this in different ways, in using different charts. So we've got we've got multiple areas here. We've got a profitable area, basically anything in the green, anything above break even is going to be profitable, because that tells us if the analyst projections hit even the average of 171, or as long as they stay above 136, we know within this range of values, if the analyst's expectations are correct, that will have a profitable return. And so that's why we need to use an area chart for anything above 136. So it starts from 136, goes all the way up to 210. So it captures that area. The loss area is going to be at 130, 136 and below. And so this may seem a bit confusing because it's got 136 and 136, but the reason this works is because area charts are going to start from the bottom. So they go all the way from 0 up until 136. So I just need to keep that at that break even point. Whereas the loss or the blank area is going to start up until 125. So see, it starts from 136, this blank area, 136 down to 125. So you can imagine that area is covering up this area that otherwise would be filled in red. So that's why you kind of need these two working together, so that the red fill comes all the way up until the break even, but you need this blank area to wipe out this stuff. Otherwise, that red fill will show up in here, and that's not what you want, right? So that's the purpose of that. So it can look a little bit strange because it's 136 to 136, but really the area chart is going to go from 0 all the way up to 136. So that's the key piece, and it works together with this blank area that's going to overshadow that part below the lowest estimate of 125. So that's how that works. And then the lines themselves, the highest point, the consensus line, the break-even line, lowest point, these are all these dashed, or in this case, solid lines, just to allow us to show those lines along with the area chart. So there's a lot of different pieces in here. And so that's why it initially may have looked a lot more complicated than it needed to be. But to make the chart look this way, this is how it needs to be set up. So hope you found this useful, and thank you for watching.